Baker is your host. With me is Bob Francis of GoFullThrottle.net. Bob, how are things going in the off-season of NASCAR? Are you getting RPM withdrawals?
Well, yes, Roy, great to be with you. Great to be back on High Bank Fury. And yeah, I mean, it's tough. Thankfully, Go Full Throttle does do some F1 coverage. So we had a little bit of motorsports to keep, keep those RPM and that motor buzz high. And if we are going to be at Tucson Speedway this weekend covering some short track racing, the Turkey Shoot 250 happening at Tucson Speedway. So a little short track racing just to keep me in sync, Roy.
Well, that is outstanding, and I'm sure that you can hardly wait for it. And I'm glad to see that you're doing some of that. I do know this upcoming season that we are planning on covering some IndyCar in 2026. Then also we'll be doing some high limit, and I know that we've had some promises from them, so we'll be expanding our repertoire. But right now it's NASCAR, and you talk about NASCAR rising. They certainly did last week. NASCAR ran 5 episodes on YouTube, 5 straight nights. What did you think of the series?
I thought it was excellent, and that's not a surprise, Roy. I had high expectations going in just because of John Dahl, the producer's resume. I mean, if you watched any of his work with ESPN, the 30 for 30 series that he did, and those shows on ESPN, John is an awesome storyteller. So I thought it met the mark and even exceeded the mark in a few cases, just because, it's easy to highlight, I think, in a docuseries like that. We look at Drive to Survive and some of these other motorsports docuseries that have been done, and you get the behind the scenes look at a driver's life outside of what you see in the 2.5 hour or 3 hour telecast that NASCAR puts on the air. And that, I think, is part of that intriguing story. But I thought John brought out even more about the personalities, about how each of the 3 drivers that were featured, Rajah, Jesse, and Carson, how they go about their mental preparation, and just the dynamics of juggling their personal life with their career, seeking to grow as drivers in NASCAR in each of the 3 series that were highlighted.
Yeah, I thought the series was excellent. John Dahl, as you know, he was on the Zoomcast a couple of weeks ago as we did a couple of episodes.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I'll tell you, and John didn't shy away from answering some questions and that. And of course, flattery will get you everywhere, and I think I probably accomplished that. But I do respect his work and what he's trying to accomplish. What I like the most about the series, Bob, is the production values are outstanding. These are all the things that you're taught in any kind of broadcasting or film school, and that's what he does and does in spades. Some of those things I actually have an ABC network producer, Hollywood filmmaker. We're going to be incorporating some of those things in some feature stories that I'm going to do this year. We're actually going to be talking about that tomorrow and have a commitment with that. And then there's a project I'm looking to do with the Detroit area racing icon, which we talked about off the air. And if that happens, I've already done 4 shows with them several years ago, but we're going to look to do something a little different if his health holds up. But we're going to hang on there. Right. And so with John Dahl, I thought that was outstanding. I thought the series was a little uneven in a few places, and what I mean by that was that in the 3rd episode, that was all a Carson Hocevar episode. There was very little with the other drivers in there, and then also I thought Rajah Caruth disappeared for a good chunk of the project, and that's probably something, if I got another shot at Mr. Dahl, I would ask, and he would probably give me an answer, and it would put the pieces of the puzzle back in there. But I kind of expected that, and I'll kind of get into that as we talk about the 3 drivers and that. But it did look like the series focused on Hocevar first, Jesse Love second, and Rajah Caruth third. Is that how you saw the series play out?
Yeah, again, I kind of anticipated that, Roy, just, based on math. The Cup Series has the most viewers, sells the most tickets. So if you're doing a documentary, yeah, I expected that going in. And also, Carson Hocevar, did probably exceed Jesse Love and Rajah Caruth in terms of media buzz this season. A bit of controversy. He is a very unique and fun personality. And so I think there was perhaps a bit more content for John to work with, that made it a bit more Cup Series, especially that third episode of the docu-series that focused so much on Carson. If I put myself in the Wayback Machine, Roy, and I go to that time period during the season that episode was focused on, I was waiting for, perhaps there was going to be another Rick Hendrick phone call, much as what happened with Ross Chastain, that Rick Hendrick was going to call Spire and then call Carson directly and say, hey, buddy, settle it down a little bit. You got a big future ahead of yourself. Don't be crashing any of my cars.
The conversation happened. I just think that they weren't allowed to be a part of it. One of the few times that NASCAR Films was not able to do that. Taking a look at what was the biggest surprise you learned about Rajah Caruth and the episodes that featured him and the footage in that?
Well, I think, Roy, my takeaway, my surprise was it reaffirmed the importance of iRacing with these young drivers coming up. Just how much the technology has advanced in the simulators. And for some, it's a flashback to, was William Byron a unicorn? Someone who was very into iRacing and learning racecraft on a simulator before he ever really became active, aggressively racing, in the Legend Series, and then working his way through, to get behind the wheel of a Cup car. And so for Rajah, that sort of came through to me was, maybe I, being of the older generation, did not really fully comprehend the capabilities and the footing that it puts a driver on to really master those simulators.
Yeah, and I understand what you said. I agree with you. And what I found was that Rajah Caruth had basically never been in a race car until he was 15 years old. I mean, he was racing on simulators until then. When he got in the car, they showed a little bit of footage during a couple of points in the series where he oversteered the car a couple times, and he just was not expecting that at all. So he was really, really raw when he got into ARCA and those various series. I think that NASCAR, and I think Rick Hendrick, if they have any way possible to get Rajah Caruth earmarked for a Cup car, he's going to have that opportunity, but he's going to have to be able to hit the curveball. And that he did win once this year. He had 4 top 5s. He had 12 top 10s in the series, which is actually pretty darn good. And he's going to get a shot in Xfinity this year. So I'm very thankful that Rajah Caruth, I hope he does that. I fully believe NASCAR, the company itself, wants to get into diversity bad. You can tell when you go to their website, they are all about it. Everything from promoting diversity, in their hiring practices to getting their internships and all that, as I have been on the site behind the scenes, as you know, this year, and I know that's a big thing. But he is ultimately going to have to earn a ride with somebody. He does have the Rick Hendrick as his sponsor. So if Hendrick can find any way to get him in a Cup car, even if it takes him a couple of more years and he's 25 years old, I think he's going to have that opportunity. What says you?
I agree with you, Roy. I think, one of the biggest challenges for a young driver like that, and he's actually older than most of the drivers that come through the system, but picking up that, getting the eye of Hendrick Motorsports and Rick Hendrick himself and stepping in there with Spire to sponsor that truck, to take the thing that hurts so many developing young talents like that, which is the unpredictability. Am I going to have a ride next year? And so if a HendrickCars.com sponsorship working with Spire can guarantee some longevity so that he can really get laps in and develop his driver racecraft then I think his pathway is set. He has to earn it, as you said, Roy. He's obviously demonstrated he's got great talent, but it's raw. It's going to have to be continue to be refined through the Truck Series. Maybe he does a Carson Hocevar and jumps directly to Cup. I don't know. Or does he take a more traditional path and they go to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, or do a combination of truck and O'Reilly Auto Parts as part of his development path, ultimately to get him to Cup?
Yeah, he needs reps. He needs to see fastballs. He needs to get out there and see as many scenarios as he can. He will get on the simulator and he will refine certain things at certain points and get his hand-eye coordination going, but he needs to be behind a heavy race car and doing race car things for sure. On the other side of this break, we are going to take a look at Jesse Love and Carson Hocevar on the Rising Series, give a couple of final comments, and that happens for you in 30. This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are followed multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today. We are back from our break with us, Bob Francis of GoFullThrottle.net, and we took a look at Rajah Caruth, and Jesse Love has won everywhere he has went. What did you learn the most from Love in the series?
Well, maybe a little bit untraditional, Roy, but I just absolutely was fascinated by the surfing segments that were shown. His upbringing, on the beaches of California and being out there surfing in that cold Pacific water with the wetsuit on and all that. It did remind me, I guess, again, as an older generation NASCAR fan, I was immediately flashing back to Jeff Gordon's path from, California kid who, bust into the NASCAR at the top level, and but brought that history and his background with him before he goes to Indianapolis. He masters the sprint cars, and then he gets to NASCAR. For me, Jesse Love, I think John did a great job in the series of that contrast between his early upbringing and the uniqueness of that California upbringing, and then fast forward, 15 years later, here he is in the Xfinity Series, as it was known, in 2025, racing for Richard Childress Racing, pursuing the title, and what the contrast was there. I thought that was fascinating, great television.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jesse Love. I'm like you, Bob. I can spot talent a mile away, which definitely I see in this particular case, and with Carson Hocevar, where we're going to go next. Jesse Love, he's got speed. He would have won in Atlanta. It was in the spring of 24. He ran out of gas. It was the race that just kept going and going and going. They had about 4 overtimes, and literally, if they had ran one more lap, about half the field would have ran out of fuel. But to me, Jesse Love, he's won everywhere he's went. To me, I thought the big thing that really captured his essence is 2 things. First off, I did find out that blondes grow on trees in California, because he has one of the prettiest girlfriends going out there in the series. But also, 15 years old and having your parents put you up. He lived on his own. He had to find out where to put the milk. He got to drink from the milk carton if he wanted to. He had that kind of autonomy, but he had to get out there and he had to do it on his own. His mom did regret in the series that she didn't come out there, but I guess she has one of those jobs that paid for his racing. His father did as well. And so at 15 years old, I don't know about you, I think I could have handled living on my own at 15, especially if the house was paid for, but all I had to do was, figure it out and all that. I think I could have done it. But I'm probably to the exception rather than the rule. And what about you as a 15-year-old? Do you think you get to handle such a thing and have to win at racing?
Right. I think the story that John really brought out there of what Jesse Love is Discipline and focus, Roy. Yeah, lots of opportunity for a 15-year-old to get taken off track, get their eyes off of their primary objective and their goal. But what we saw through Rising was Jesse Love very focused, very disciplined. He knew exactly and still today knows where he wants to go in NASCAR and as a race car driver. And I think, landing at Richard Childress Racing and just the environment there and the history that comes with representing Richard Childress Racing and all of the support from Chevrolet that's wrapped into that led to his success in 2025 and ultimately the title.
And with that, so we have talked Jesse Law, we've talked Rajah Caruth, Carson Hocevar. What did you learn most from Hocevar in the series?
That he's a free spirit, Roy. Boy, I think those of us in media, we look for interesting stories, interesting personalities, and Hocevar delivers, and then some. Driving around in the Dale Earnhardt #3 Chevy truck, going to Cletus McFarland's Mullet 250 or whatever that race, that endurance race. Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of things that really take a race car driver who's on television almost every week, but adds such depth and richness to the story. And, I remember him in the Truck Series. We all remember that horrible crash. Remember when he broke his leg? And instead of being down and depressed about it, he turned it into comedy and loved reeling around in the infield and on pit road with his crutches while his leg healed up. But he got back in the car or in the truck at that time and got it done. So I love the personality. I love what Carson Hocevar brings to the driver plus. Interesting personality, big smile on his face, always having fun. And in that interview we did in the press conference with the release of Rising, Roy, remember I slipped in that question about, well, it's easy for you to say yes. What did your team say? What did your crew chief say? And he said, oh, I love making fun of his hair.
Well, and with that, tell you what, right now, can we go to that question, Bob?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. So here is Bob. We're going to take the question right from the presser, and we'll have a final response right after that. This is Bob, myself, and the rest of the press, but this is Bob's question last week as they were premiering Rising.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Carson and John and Matt, for making the availability. John and Carson, expand a little bit on that initial conversation. You said you pitched it at the awards banquet last year. Carson immediately started texting you. How does that conversation then go to Spire management, Luke, the team, to have a crew following you around? Carson, it wasn't just your call. You can say yes, but what about the rest of the team buying into this, especially your crew chief and your crew?
Yeah, I can't speak for John, but I think my team knew how excited I was and how important it is, and I mean they let me get away with a lot or be very very open at times on a little bit of everything. So I think they probably were just like, oh shoot, another thing he wants to do or another thing we're gonna do and everything. But I think they all understand the game too. Spire is consistently wanting to be in this limelight and grow themselves. So that's I think 2 years ago, I think Spire would have been just thankful you even mentioned them on the broadcast that they were in the race, let alone have a whole true documentary on their race team and showing their inner workings and everything. I think they were proud just to show the growth and that they're a team that actually goes to the racetrack and competes. And, Luke, I get to make fun of him at times, and he gets to be a TV star per se, or documentary star. He always is very proud of how his hair looks, so I always ragged on him that he was built for TV.
Well, what got you asking that question, Bob? I asked a great question too, but it fell flat.
Well, Roy, I would say scar tissue, Roy. Having been involved in team sports in another realm decades ago in the Olympic sport of cycling, I know the dynamics of team interaction and managers and coaches. And so you have to look for those opportunities to have fun and, in good nature, poke at each other a little bit, give each other the business, and to keep it fun, to not be so serious that you're myopically focused only on winning, that there's much more to life, and to enjoy the moment. And that's why I wanted to get that question in there.
Great. Awesome. To let everybody know, talking to executive producer John Dahl, the series is not only played for 5 nights on YouTube, and it will live there. They're not going to pull it down anytime soon. It is going to play on consecutive weeks on FS1 in December. It's going to move to the NASCAR channel with multiple replays. And John said they're not sure what's going to happen after that, but it looks like most, if not all, the broadcasting partners, one way or another, whether it's on their streaming platforms or whatever, will have an opportunity to put that series out there. So it sounds like that's going to happen, and they're going to get all kinds of clicks on that, and it kind of puts in focus why NASCAR has all these broadcasting partners, is that they can all basically play off each other with the chess pieces. They're not just having Fox and NBC and NASCAR. Now they've got 5 or 6, and it drives the fans a little nuts, but that's an episode for another time. Well, Bob, where can we find you?
Hey, we're always on the internet at gofullthrottle.net. And our podcast, which Roy has been on, Motorsports Nation, you can find us on our YouTube channel. So best thing to do, Roy, just search Go Full Throttle Racing News. That'll point you to all our channels and the podcast, and look forward to more shows this off season, peeling back some fun facts and figures, and looking forward to 2026.
Yeah, you can find us on skyviewsports.net, also High Bank Fury. We are on 5 different podcast outlets, including YouTube, Amazon, and basically wherever podcasts are. We decided to do all the major ones there, Bob. And so with that, tell you what, we're going to be talking about the silly season. So if you like this podcast, that one's coming up soon enough.
It's time to turn it up.
When you're fast, you feel like this whole world, it just changes everything.
77, douchebag.
I race for the 3Ms, me, myself, and I.
Superstar right there, man.
You've got to appreciate the journey.
Rajah Caruth hangs on and wins it.
You can't say you've made it, because I think that allows for complacency.
Keep putting it to him, buddy.
Jesse Love gets his first win.
Oh, yeah, I love you guys.
I definitely always feel confident. I'm ready for the next level.
Jesse, it's okay, dude. It's just a game.
Here comes Hocevar.
Jesse Love will take the lead.
It's woven into my identity. There's